Guys, I've just watched Silo episode 7 and I am um feeling a lot. Feeling a lot, especially for wait, what was it? Sherlock's. This is the one of the suggestions for ship name between Knox and Shirley given by Melanie. It's her name. I don't remember. It's Media Melanie TV, something like that. And I've stuck with it. So now their ship name is Forever. Why is my light so bad? Anyway, their ship name is Forever Sherlocks. And they were so cute. Anyway, let's get to the tea. This is my morning coffee, not my tea, but let's pretend I'm British. I do the most horrible British accent. Anyway. Oh, to see Bernard's downfall. To be so clearly stated in this episode that he is losing it. In this episode, we get scenes from Silo 17 and Silo 18 interspersed, finally. I mean, I'm saying this because I saw some other opinions about the episode needing more Juliette, but when I was watching it, I didn't feel the lack of Juliette. Like, I didn't even notice that baby girl was gone until we saw her at the end of the episode. So I was fine with the episode showing mostly season Silo 18. But we go back and forth between both silos. And what I realized is that it made sense that last episode didn't have as much Juliette because Juliette was unconscious. She wasn't doing anything. She was just sleeping. So we would have just seen her sleep. Basically. And what it led me to kind of not realize, but I guess understand a little bit better is the way that the showrunners are structuring the show, or at least the in-betweenness scenes of Silo 17 and Silo 18, is that we are seeing them in kind of real time. So when Juliette became unconscious, there was nothing to see in Silo 17, so we just stuck to Silo 18, which makes sense to me. And then we can assume that, why do I keep saying assume? And then we can assume that the same amount of time is passing in Silo 18 and Silo 17. And it makes sense because they need to have the timing, a really good timing to bring them back together, to have Juliette go over to Silo 18 again. Now, I want to start with Silo 17 this time, guys, because what did we see? I've been talking about this for so long. What did we see? We see the interference of person number 3 in Silo 17. I don't know. I mean, I think I know what happened, but whatever happened, Solo is definitely hurt, and the third person either revealed themselves to Solo or they had already been known to Solo, because this is what I think happened, okay? Solo is clearly not in a decent state of mind. He can't think clearly. He goes ballistic just at the mention that he isn't Solo. So, what if... This is not a delusional theory, by the way. This is a very serious theory. I truly think this is what happened. What if the third person in Silo 17 had been, either they had been in the bunker with Solo this whole time, or they were from the outside and they were communicating with Solo this whole time? Because I don't think Solo would have been in his right mind to make all of these decisions. Like, to decide that it would be better for him strategically to keep Juliette in Silo 17 and make her go underwater and fix the pump before she went out. I don't know that he would come to this decision by himself. So what if the third person in Silo 17 has been the one making all the decisions all along? What if the third person is the one who is actually in charge and is the one who manipulated Solo into dealing with Juliette and eventually getting her to fix the water pump? Because I feel like Solo would have, Solo behaves very much like a child. I feel like he would have helped her come up again, and I feel like he would have wanted her as a friend. So it has to be this third person that is coming in and taking over Silo 17 for whatever reason. Maybe they want to go inside of the bunker and they thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity because he's distracted by Juliette. I can overpower him and force him to give me the code to the bunker. This is what I hope happened, because we don't really see anything. The blood could be Solo's, but it could be this other person. Which I don't think it is, because if you notice at the end of the episode, once again, we get the view from like upstairs as if someone is watching in on Juliette. So Solo kinda has to be the one who was hurt. Or does he? Is there more than a third person in Silo 17? Is there a fourth person? Because if the people who sent those two men who are outside of the door, who are younger corpses, as I've previously said, if the people who sent them could have sent someone else, isn't it logical that they would be more careful, that they wouldn't have the same strategy as those two men? And if they sent two men before, if they sent a pair, isn't it logical that they would send another pair? So there's not just a third person in the silo, there's a third and a fourth person in the silo. And maybe these two people can go outside and come inside whenever they want. Whatever it is, finally, the extra humans in Silo 17 made contact, and up until now, we couldn't be sure if they were aggressive, if they were just looking and observing, but now we know that they mean dirty business. And I mean, do they? Because then why don't they take Juliette out when she comes out of the water? Why do they just look on and see what she's going to do? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, Solo can be pretty aggressive, and like he seems like a big man. Like he's a bit taller than Juliette, but he looks big. So he could potentially take people out. And I mean, he must have done something to those other two men outside. So he has the capacity to take someone out. And if these shadows who have been spying on Silo 17, whether it's one or two or more, if they haven't done anything to Juliette so far, if they just wanted to get Solo out of the bunker, they had many opportunities before. So what if the person who was the aggressor in this situation was actually Solo? What if these people took the opportunity of Juliette being inside the water to go talk to him, maybe again, maybe for the first time, I don't know, and Solo freaked out and took out one of them, or the one person? I think that's what happened. I don't think Solo is injured. I think he injured someone, and he ran away inside the bunker afterwards because he felt threatened. And now the pump is working, so what else does it need to be outside for, you know? But yeah, I really like that development, and I think the only thing I want to comment, apart from this revelation that the third person revealed themselves, the revelation that they revealed themselves. Anyway, the only other thing I want to comment is that, how insane it must be for Juliette to try to reason with Solo, because she's saying like everything that we, the audience, has been saying. She was saying to him, I mean, you have more time than the other silo has. I can go to them, explain them what's happening, and chill things out in silo 18, and then I can return to silo 17 to help you out because you have months. And when this argument didn't work with Solo, she was like, okay, why don't you go? Why don't you go? You know so much more about the water than I do. Why don't you go? And he just short circuits. Like, it doesn't work out in his brain that there's any possibility of doing things in a way that is different from what he wants. And I mean, how could she ever argue with him? How could she ever like win an argument with him? Because his mindset is so fixed on protecting the silo, being the shadow of IT, protecting the silo, you know, and it's been like that for so many years. Honestly, I think that this is doing a lot more than just moving the plot along, because this is establishing not only Solo as a character, as this little kid trapped inside an adult man's body trying to play responsible adult and make decisions that make no sense, but it gives us a lot of establishing or re-establishing or supporting like Juliette's character, because there's no doubt in my mind that Juliette's going to be the next big leader of the silo, if not both silos. And what they're showing with this, the way that she's handling Solo and the way that she's handling these insane decisions that he makes, is how well she can not only hold under pressure, but deal with deranged people, because this is going to be her life from now on. She's going to have to deal with deranged people everywhere, because I'm sure we're going to be exploring other silos. I'm sure you're going to get to meet the upper management, and Juliette is going to be the leader for all of this. And I just think that the care that the writers are taking, and that they have been taking since season 1, but especially in this season, with developing Juliette's character as someone who is not only competent, extremely intelligent, empathetic towards others, but also incredibly patient and diplomatic. Like, the character development that we are getting for Juliette is so insanely good, and I don't think people are even noticing it, because it's being delivered as a kind of second layer that is secondary to the plot and the action of the story, that we don't even like compute it that it's happening, but it's happening. Like, the way you see Juliette is progressing over these seasons to be like this person who is capable of anything, because when has she failed so far? Like, she's done insane things and she always comes out on the other side. Somehow she always figures it out. Like, in the last episode, or the past 2 episodes, she was sick. She was seriously sick to a point where she couldn't take care of herself. But because she was able to build rapport with Solo, and because she was able to show him that she has a lot of abilities, a lot of skills, she was valuable, so she was taken care of. Like, come on. I don't know if anyone is like seeing this insanely beautiful character development, but I am. And I wanted to point it out. And then Silo 18, we see Bernard falling. He hasn't landed yet, but baby boy is falling. And I gotta start with Sims. I have to start with Sims and Camille, but with Sims because the way that I squealed when he said Bernie. Bernie. Oh my god. First of all, let's not call him Bernie because it's an insult to my man Bernie Sanders. So let's not call him that. I won't call him that. But Sims ate. And he ate after Bernard had the audacity to go tell him, I put you in judicial as a punishment. I don't ever want to see you again. You didn't obey me. You forced me to murder someone I had a lot of affection for. And I sent you here as a punishment, so I never had to see your face again and to strip you of all of your power. Because this is the episode where we get the confirmation that judicial, and probably a lot of these, like, leadership systems, are bullshit. I mean, he had the audacity to say, baby boy Sims, you sign whatever the I tell you to sign, and then you pretend to have power, and that's it. That's the rest of your life. Can you imagine someone tells you that? Someone says, like, oh, you made a mistake? The rest of your life is going to be meaningless. Good luck. I was honestly fuming I have no idea how in the hell I'm, like, being positive towards Sims, because I've always hated that man. But in this season, I'm like... And then I saw him washing dishes. I like Sims now. Somehow I like Sims now. What can I tell you? Make a man wash dishes and I will like him. The bare minimum. But anyway, this is what's happening. And what I've been saying for the past 2 episodes, for my past 2 videos, that Bernard doesn't have anyone, that he's lost Sims, he's lost the sheriff, he's lost Meadows, he doesn't have Camille. The only person he has is Luke, because they forced him to be his shadow. And the guy who I assumed was the judicial guy, or maybe one of the listeners downstairs, Bernard doesn't have anyone. That's the bottom line. He doesn't have anyone. And Sims spit that information onto his face, and I was like, love that. Now, do I want to see Sims in power? Absolutely not. Do I want to see Camille in power? maybe. But yeah, basically what happens in Silo 18 is that the rebels, smart asses that they are, actually manage to sway the people towards their side, the public opinion, let's say. They have a plan to launch these little papers into the air. They tell everyone, oh, look up at IT. Let's all look at IT's lies. And then they shut off the energy from the silo, and everything goes out apart from IT, and people can see with their own two eyes that IT has their own power source. So what else are they lying about? Of course, Bernard comes up with his own little lie saying, oh no, mechanical controls the energy, so when they shut off the power to everywhere else but IT to make us look bad. Liar. But people believe him. Well, some people. I think most of the people in the silo are starting to see Mechanical's point of view, and Mechanical is establishing order down below. They find out, well, with the help of the sheriff and another person in the silo, they find out who was the person who poisoned their food on behalf of Bernard. And they find out that it was this lady in the cafeteria that had absolutely no choice because her mother was sick on medical upstairs. So she was afraid that if she didn't comply with their orders to poison the food, they would hurt her mother, which they would absolutely have done. And then we see once again, the differences between Mechanical and Upstairs. And we see them arriving at a solution on how they would punish this woman for poisoning their food. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to send it to the mines. We're not going to send it to judicial. We're not going to hurt you in any way. We're going to punish you. You're going to have hard jobs. You're going to have to pay for what you did. And then you're never going to do it again. And they say, we'll find a way to protect your mother so they can't get to her. You won't be sent to your death. You will get a punishment. You will do the punishment, and then you'll be back in our good graces. Basically, Knox was the one who gave this order. Basically, he's like giving her, 2 years in jail or 2 years in community service, kinda. Which I liked because it's just consistently showing us a different system of ruling the people, which is basically what they're trying to create. I mean, I don't know that they have the idea or the concept of democracy in Asylum. They probably don't. I mean, I'm sure they have it in a skewed way, but what they are basically coming up with in the down below is a concept for democracy and democratic rule, and yeah. I like it. I love it. This is what I want to see as well in the silos. Like, for sure, different types of societies have been developed in the different silos over the years because, as we've seen between Silo 17 and Silo 18, there are differences in culture. There are maybe slight differences, but we all know, butterfly effect and all, little things can add up to a lot over the years. And one of the things we find out from this episode is that the silos were built 350 years ago. And Bernard, because this is what happened. Okay, so to wrap up the bottom part of the silo, they are organizing themselves downstairs. They send a message to the people in the silo that IT is lying. Then they shut off the lights and they prove that IT is lying. And they are basically setting up in motion this probably revolution to call for some form of independence of the down below, or to overthrow Bernard's government. This is what's happening down below. Apart from that, the one thing that I would point out is that baby girl Walker, is working. She has a mission. And I think that what they are implying, because Walker wants to free her boo from judicial because the other lady that was part of the 4 people that went upstairs to talk to Meadow, the other lady is still in judicial. She's in isolation and she isn't being let out. And this other lady is the ex-wife of Walker. So Walker is like, no, I gave up on her 25 years ago. I will be damned if I do that again. And she's planning. She sets up a camera in her workshop to send them a message to the people in judicial. And they see it. And the way that Bernard interprets this is, we have someone on our side downstairs. We have someone we can manipulate and trade information for a person. We have someone. But the way I'm seeing this is, Walker, no way in hell Walker will betray the people from Mechanical. No way in hell. It's not happening. Whatever she's doing, whatever she's planning that she wants to get the other lady out of Judicial, she knows that Bernard is a liar. She knows that the leadership upstairs are a bunch of liars and manipulators. There is absolutely no way that Bernard is going to get his way and is going to get Walker to turn on Mechanical. Absolutely no way. I would bet a kidney. Not a kidney. I would bet half of my liver, because that grows back, that Walker is not betraying Mechanical. But she has a plan, so I trust that. I completely trust Walker. I would trust her with my life. Well, maybe with half of my kidney. Not kidney, liver. Half of my liver. How about that? Guys, I'm very deranged today because I've been eating a lot and there's a lot of sugar in my system. Blaming the sugar for my... well, blaming the sugar. But yeah, that's downstairs. Oh no! Guys, I love Shirley and Knox so much. Like, when they were looking at each other, like, when Knox was looking at Shirley, like, I'm romance starved, okay? I'm romance starved, and I love it. Love it. They're perfect. The way that Knox was looking at her, I haven't seen that look in someone's eyes for more than a year. About upstairs. Bernard, we see, oh my god, guys, we see the inside of the bunker, and we see what? We see a library. And it was a beautiful, beautiful library. Like, if you don't know, I am a bookworm. I am book addicted. Like, I have a book channel as well, and the library was cute. It was cute, but then just all the symbolism comes flooding me, because these people in the silo live completely isolated from their history, completely isolated from their environment, from whatever planet they are on. And it's just so beautiful to see the show, like, illustrating this idea that if you control information, you control people. They demonstrated it so beautifully in the physical existence of a library behind the bunker. I think I've talked about this before in another episode, but you know that game, about the village and the wolf, that the village goes to sleep and then the wolf has to kill someone, and then the village wakes up and they have to figure out who is the wolf. The game that was invented by a couple of Russian students to prove the point that a minority that holds all the information will always control the situation. This is Bernard and the leadership in these silos. They control all of the information that exists in the world, and they can control people, because if you have all of the information, you can frame it in whichever way you want. You can give it out in whichever way you want. And we see this demonstrated in the silo over and over and over again, because Bernard knows that Mechanical shut down the power to demonstrate that IT has their own source of power. Bernard knows that, but he also knows that he holds the information, so he manipulates it to make everyone believe whatever the hell he wants them to believe. Like, Bernard knows that he is the one in control in the silo, but he makes everyone else believe that the control is distributed between him, judicial, the sheriff's office, the judge. I forgot the other departments in the silo. But this is one of the biggest points of this entire show, is that these silo societies are isolated societies. They have potential access to all of the information they need, but they don't use it. And isn't this like what any totalitarian regime does, what any fascist regime does, what any controlling government does, is you take away education or you make it really hard to access it. You take away journalism or you make sure you control what is said with journalism. You take away freedom of speech, you take away freedom of assembly. You control all of the information and make sure that no one else has it, or if they have it, they have your version of the information, your version of the facts. And that's how they control people. And this is so like beyond a TV show to me, because the fact that they are using this, and not just in this TV show, in many TV shows, in many movies, in films, everywhere, that they demonstrate this point and they make it clear in such simple ways to understand. Like this show, this book is making it clear in such an easy way to understand, where there is a literally limited society living inside of a silo and being controlled by the leadership. They are only given the information that the leadership decides to give them, and they manage to cage them until a certain extent. The revolutions in the silos are so common because, as I've said before, this had to have been happening for a long time, and now we find out that it's been happening for 350 years. And it has happened so many times, to the point that they have the occurrence of revolutions in the order. And I'm just loving this season of television. I am loving the symbolism behind it. I am loving the correlate to the real world inside the show. And I'm going absolutely insane watching this. Because, another thing. When Bernard introduces Luke to the bunker, to whatever is behind the doors that we saw, we have one door that leads to the library. I'm sure the other door leads to the living quarters and so on. And Bernard and Luke go inside this library, and Luke is flooded with all of this information. He's flooded with all of the history of humankind, apart from why the silos are created, which, by the way, I think Bernard knows and just isn't telling anyone. There's no way that they have access to all of that information, and Bernard doesn't know why the silos were created. And what does he say to Luke? What does he say to him? The most important thing you have to do right now is to break Queen's code. The stars will have to wait. And I mean, isn't this what they all do? I was thinking back to the Hunger Games with the really smart guy, Beatty, I think, that he was just thinking of the science of it all and he created a perfect system for the capital. And I was thinking of A Murder at the End of the World with Sean's dad, who wanted to be an astronomer, look up at the stars, and then he was forced to go to war. Like, Luke as a character in this TV show represents this beautiful example of how people in power, governments, important institutions, important organizations and companies will use brilliant people, will use dreamers, intelligent, smart, question askers, like the people who progress society, the people who create, the people who imagine something better. They will use them and abuse them for their own purposes. And the presence of Luke being manipulated by a leader spiraling out of control is so beautiful. Like, I was screaming and crying on the floor when he said that. Like, the most important thing is to break the code right now. The stars will have to wait. Love that. I love this episode. Again, like, I'm loving all of these episodes, and I know that the pacing isn't the best one because it's not going as fast as we would have hoped, but I mean, it's more realistic this way. Like, I believe it would happen like this. I believe that things would go wrong, and yeah. But yeah, that's up top. Bernard has started to fall. Sims is completely out of his control and is cahooting with Camille to play both sides and see which one works out. Luke is working for Bernard and is still enthralled in decoding the code, which we found out is like a book cipher. The the words are numbers to search for other words in the book, which is The Wizard of Oz, the book that Meadows had, which makes sense. So I'm assuming we will have the code next episode, or the decoded code next episode. Bernard is about to fall, basically, is about to fall. Like, his next strategy is going to be to play into what Walker wants and to try to use Walker against Mechanical, which I don't think will work, and Mechanical will eventually succeed. And I think that Mechanical will either succeed right when Juliette is arriving or before Juliette arrives, and it will be like the clash and the final. I hope this clash happens next episode, and then the final episode is them deciding on what to do after. Like, are they going to go back to Silo 17 and try to like repopulate it? Are they going to explore other silos? Are they going to try to figure out what happened or what's happening? And yeah, I feel like those are the two major things. Juliette is going to come from Silo 17. The revolution will be somehow solved in Silo 18. And in the middle of all of this, we're going to get the code decoded, and we're going to figure out what big problem is there in the silo, which, honestly, I think Bernard is still lying. I think there isn't a big problem because, I mean, this message has been here for 25 years, 20 years? So if there were a big problem in a silo, it would have been there for the last 20 years. Why does he have to solve it now? I think he was lying to Luke. I think he wants to decode a message just to understand why Meadows didn't want to become his shadow anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I'm so sorry if this was so out of order that you didn't catch a thing. I'm just really excited about it. I watched the episode an hour ago and I was like, okay, I gotta record now. I gotta record this now. Because usually I wait a little bit just to let my thoughts, I don't think there's an expression in English, but em banho-maria. And I didn't do it this time because I want to talk about it. And I'm really loving this season. I don't know, I feel like a bit of an outlier because I've been watching some other creators that I like, and I've seen some impatience with Juliette's return to Silo 18, but I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's realistic. I feel like it makes sense given their situation in Silo 17, and I also want to know what happens there. I want to know more about Silo 17. I want to know more about the damn water. I want to know more about the damn revolution. I want to know more about the damn third person, possibly fourth. So I think that the writers created such nice worlds, both in Silo 18 and in Silo 17, and the overall mystery of it all. I feel like the writing has been good enough to keep me enthralled in both settings, because, and you see it with this episode as well, you want to find out what's going to happen to the rebels and to Bernard and all that, just as much as you want to find out what's going to happen to Juliette and to Solo and to the third person who is in Silo 17. I feel like the writers have been doing a really good job, and honestly, I'm gonna have a blast in a few months, because I always do this, if I really love a show, I will rewatch it later, and I'm gonna have a blast in a few months when I rewatch this season, and I peek on so much more of the symbolism, because this is what the writers are doing really well. They have a layer of storytelling, which is plot. They are advancing the plot, and they are making things happen, and there's a revolution, there's Juliette going out, there's Silo 17, there's a line, which is the plot. And then underneath that line, they have character development, which they are doing beautifully in all of them. Bernard is descending. Sim's character has changed for the better, and it makes sense. Camille's character has changed for the better, and it makes sense. Walker's character is developing. The sheriff's character is developing. The other sheriff, who just used to be kind of another face of Mechanical, is his own individual person. Knox and Sherley are developing so much. Do you see what I mean? All of these characters are not just, figures in a post-apocalyptic dystopian setting. They are real people who are going through real experiences and coming out slightly changed people in the other end, I guess. And they have all of these layers. plot, characters, and then they have symbolism and correlates to the real world. And it's just great writing. This is feeding my soul, basically. And I know maybe I'm picking up on a lot of things that aren't that relevant to the plot and are just conversations and themes. But I mean, I love reading, and that's what I do whenever I read a book or watch anything. I always pick up on more than what is clearly stated, because I mean, that's the point of art, of good art. And a TV show or a book can be good art if there are these layers of subtext and symbolism and metaphor, and Silo has them, and it's so much fun anytime I pick one out. Yeah, I'm just really enjoying this show. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. I think I'm gonna post this today and see you maybe tomorrow, because I already scheduled a video for tomorrow and I think it's gonna be a fun one. Bye, guys.